The stagecoach lurched to a stop in front of the weathered general store, and Eleanor Ramsey stepped down onto the dusty street of Tropic, Utah Territory, knowing full well that the man who sent for her expected someone far prettier than what she had to offer. The August sun beat down mercilessly on the small settlement nestled in the shadow of red rock cliffs, and Eleanor pulled her worn bonnet lower over her face, more from habit than any real hope it would shield her from the stares. She had learned long ago that no amount of fabric could hide what nature had given her, a face that had prompted her own mother to sigh with disappointment, a crooked nose broken badly in childhood and never set right, a jaw too square, eyes too small and set too close together, skin marked with pock scars from an illness that nearly killed her at 14. The other girls back in Philadelphia had called her unfortunate-looking when they were being kind, and much worse when they were not. The letter from Nathan Irving had been formal, businesslike, requesting a bride willing to work hard on a cattle ranch, someone practical and strong. Eleanor had responded with equal practicality, listing her skills in cooking, mending, gardening, and animal husbandry, learned during years working for families who kept her in the kitchen where guests would not have to look at her. She had not sent a photograph, and he had not requested one. At 23 years old, Eleanor had accepted that this arrangement might be her only chance at a life of her own, even if that life began with inevitable disappointment on both sides. A man emerged from the general store, tall and lean with sun-weathered skin and dark hair that curled slightly beneath his hat. He moved with the easy confidence of someone who had spent his life working with animals and land, but when he spotted Eleanor standing beside her single battered trunk, his steps faltered just slightly. She saw it, that moment of recognition followed by the quick assessment, the realization that his mail-order bride was not going to be the comely helpmate he might have hoped for. Eleanor lifted her chin and met his eyes directly. She had practiced this moment in her mind during the entire journey west, steeling herself against the disappointment she would inevitably cause. Better to face it head-on than to cower. Nathan Irving removed his hat and approached her, his boots kicking up small clouds of dust with each step. He was younger than she had expected, perhaps 27 or 28, with striking green eyes that studied her face with an intensity that made her want to look away. But she held his gaze, waiting for the polite excuse, the explanation that there had been some mistake. Instead, he stopped in front of her and said, "Miss Ramsey." "Yes, Mr. Irving." Her voice came out steadier than she felt. He was quiet for a long moment, still looking at her face, and Eleanor braced herself. She had been through this before, the long pauses while people tried to reconcile what they had expected with what stood before them. Then Nathan Irving smiled, a slow, genuine smile that reached his eyes and transformed his serious face into something warm. "You are the most beautiful thing I have seen in all my days." Eleanor actually took a step back, certain she had misheard. "I beg your pardon. I said you are beautiful, Miss Ramsey." He said it simply, as though commenting on the weather or the color of the sky. "Welcome to Tropic." She stared at him, searching his face for signs of mockery or cruelty, but found only openness and what appeared to be genuine appreciation. "Mr. Irving, I think perhaps the sun has affected you. I am under no illusions about my appearance, and I would prefer honesty to false flattery." His smile faded into something more serious but no less warm. "Miss Ramsey, I am many things, but a liar is not one of them. I do not traffic in false flattery. When I say you are beautiful, I mean it with my whole heart. But I am not." The words came out more forcefully than she intended. "I have mirrors, sir. I know what I look like." "Then your mirrors must be faulty." Nathan bent to lift her trunk as though it weighed nothing. Come, let me show you the ranch. It is about 5 miles outside town. I have a wagon waiting." Eleanor did not move. "Mr. Irving, please. I appreciate whatever kindness you are attempting, but I would rather we begin this arrangement with truthfulness between us. I am aware of my shortcomings in appearance. I did not deceive you in my letters. I offered you skill and hard work, and those I have in abundance. If that is enough for you, then we can proceed. If it is not, I will take the next stage back east and we can part as friends with no hard feelings." Nathan set the trunk down in the back of a wagon hitched to 2 sturdy horses and turned to face her fully. His expression was serious now, all traces of that earlier smile gone. "Miss Ramsey, I am going to tell you something true, and I need you to hear it. I spent 4 years fighting in the war between the states. I was at Antietam, at Gettysburg, at Cold Harbor. I saw things that would turn your stomach, saw men reduced to their basest nature by fear and desperation. I saw cruelty and cowardice and selfishness beyond measure. And when I came home, I came out here to this wild territory to raise cattle and find some peace in my life." He took a step closer, and Eleanor noticed for the first time the old scar that ran along his jaw, nearly hidden by a few days' growth of beard. "What I need, Miss Ramsey, is someone real, someone with substance and strength, someone who knows hardship and has not let it make them hard. I looked at your face just now, and you know what I saw. I saw someone who has been hurt and judged unfairly, but who still had the courage to step off that stage with her head held high. I saw kindness in your eyes and determination in the set of your shoulders. I saw a woman I would be honored to call my wife." Eleanor felt her throat tighten with emotion she had not expected. "You do not even know me. I know enough, and I would like to know more if you are willing." He offered his hand to help her into the wagon. "Will you come see the ranch? No obligations beyond that. Just come look, and then decide if this is something you want to pursue." Against every instinct that told her to guard her heart, Eleanor placed her hand in his. His grip was strong and warm, calloused from years of hard work, and when he helped her up onto the wagon seat, he did so with a gentleness that surprised her. The ride out of town took them through landscape, unlike anything Eleanor had seen before. Red and white rock formations rose on either side of the narrow road, carved into fantastic shapes by wind and water. The air was dry and clean, so different from the sooty dampness of Philadelphia. Nathan pointed out landmarks as they drove, the creek where his cattle watered, the distant mountains still topped with snow despite the summer heat, the vast expanse of range land where his small herd grazed. "I have about 200 head," he explained. "It is not a large operation, but it is enough to make a living. The ranch itself is small, just a house and a barn and some corrals. Nothing fancy, but it is solid and weathertight." "How long have you been here?" Eleanor asked. 3 years. "I came out in 1871 with my younger brother Samuel. We had inherited a bit of money from our grandmother, enough to buy land and stock. Samuel was only 19 then, restless and full of dreams." Nathan's voice grew quieter. "He died 2 years ago. A horse threw him, broke his neck. It was fast, at least. He did not suffer." "I am sorry," Eleanor said, and meant it. "Thank you. It has been hard, running the place alone. That is part of why I sent for a bride. The work is easier with 2, but more than that, the silence gets to a man after a while. I missed having someone to talk to share meals with, to make plans with." Eleanor appreciated his honesty. "And you never considered courting someone locally?" Nathan glanced at her with something that might have been amusement. "There are exactly 7 unmarried women in Tropic, Miss Ramsey. 3 are under the age of 15. 2 are spoken for by other men who have not yet worked up the courage to propose. One is the preacher's widowed mother who made it very clear she has no interest in marrying again. And the last is Martha Pendleton, who is a fine woman but who has also made it clear she intends to return east to Boston as soon as she has saved enough money from her teaching position. So you see, my options were limited. And so you sent away for a bride who might be anyone at all. I sent for someone who was willing to take a chance on a life out here, someone practical and hard-working, someone brave enough to journey halfway across the country to marry a stranger. He looked at her again. I would say I chose very well. The ranch came into view around a bend in the road, and Eleanor had to admit it was more than she had expected. The house was small but well built, constructed of sturdy logs with a stone chimney and a covered porch that ran along the front. The barn was larger, painted red with white trim, and several corrals spread out behind it. She could see cattle grazing in the distance, dark shapes against the golden grass. Nathan helped her down from the wagon and carried her trunk onto the porch. Let me show you inside. The interior of the house was simple but clean. The main room served as kitchen and living area, with a cast iron stove, a solid table with 4 chairs, and a pair of comfortable-looking armchairs near the stone fireplace. Shelves lined one wall, filled with books and a few treasured possessions. 2 doors led off the main room. That one is my bedroom, Nathan said, pointing to the door on the left, and this one would be yours. He opened the right-hand door to reveal a smaller room with a narrow bed, a washstand, a chest of drawers, and a window that looked out toward the mountains. Eleanor turned to him in surprise. Separate rooms. I may have sent for a bride, Miss Ramsey, but I am not so presumptuous as to assume you would want to share my bed immediately or perhaps ever. If you decide to stay, we will be married legally, but what happens beyond that will be your choice. I will not force myself on you or make demands you are not comfortable meeting. This declaration left her momentarily speechless. In every discussion she had heard about mail-order bride arrangements, the assumption had always been that the marriage would be consummated as soon as vows were exchanged. That was part of the arrangement, the price a woman paid for security and a home. That is very generous of you, she said carefully. It is basic decency, Nathan corrected. You are taking a tremendous leap of faith coming out here. The least I can do is give you time to settle in and decide if this is truly what you want. He gestured to the main room. Are you hungry? The journey must have been exhausting. I can make us some lunch while you rest if you would like. Eleanor realized she was hungry, had been too nervous to eat much during the last leg of her journey. I can cook, Mr. Irving. That is part of what I am here for. Today you are a guest, he said firmly. Tomorrow and every day after we will share the work, but today you rest. He moved to the stove and began pulling out supplies. I am not much of a cook, I warn you, but I can manage biscuits and bacon without poisoning us both. Eleanor watched him work with efficient, economical movements. He clearly knew his way around a kitchen, even if he claimed no great skill. She found herself studying him more closely now that his attention was occupied elsewhere. He was handsome in a weathered, rugged way, with strong features and those startling green eyes. His hands were large and capable, scarred in places from work injuries. He moved with the easy grace of someone comfortable in his own skin. Why did you really send for a bride? She asked suddenly. You could have hired a hand to help with the work. It would have been simpler. Nathan looked up from the bacon he was frying. Because a hired hand is just that, hired. They can leave whenever better prospects come along. Because I am 30 years old and tired of being alone. Because I want to build something lasting here, and that is easier to do with a partner. He paused, considering his next words carefully. And because my brother made me promise before he died that I would not waste my life living like a hermit. He said I deserved happiness and companionship, and he made me swear I would seek both out. He sounds like he was a good brother. The best. Nathan's voice was thick with emotion. He was funny and optimistic and saw the good in everything. He could find something to celebrate in the worst situations. I miss him every single day. They ate lunch in companionable silence, and Eleanor had to admit that Nathan's cooking was better than he had claimed. The biscuits were light and fluffy, the bacon crisp, and he had fried eggs to go with it all. After they finished, he showed her around the property, introducing her to the horses, a mare named Daisy and a gelding named Buck, and walking her out to see some of the nearby cattle. "You ride?" he asked. "I can, though I am not very practiced. I learned when I worked for a family outside Philadelphia, but I have not been on a horse in several years. We can change that if you stay. Daisy is gentle as a lamb. She would be perfect for you to ride when you need to get to town or just want to explore a bit." As the afternoon wore on, Eleanor found herself relaxing in ways she had not expected. Nathan was easy to talk to, asking questions about her life back east without prying into painful subjects, sharing stories about ranch life and the challenges of settling in Utah territory. He pointed out where he hoped to expand the house eventually, adding another bedroom or two if he ever had children, and where he wanted to plant a larger garden come spring. "The growing season is short here," he explained, "but the soil is good if you work it right. I have managed lettuce and carrots and potatoes, some squash. Nothing fancy but enough to supplement what I buy in town." "I could help with that," Eleanor said. "I have experience with gardens. The family I worked for in Pennsylvania had a large kitchen garden, and I was responsible for much of its care." "That would be wonderful." The smile he gave her was so warm and genuine that Eleanor felt something flutter in her chest, an unfamiliar sensation that both excited and frightened her. As evening approached, Nathan prepared a simple dinner of beans and cornbread, and they ate by lamplight at the sturdy table. The conversation flowed easily, touching on books they had both read, opinions on the political situation back east, hopes for the future of the territory. Nathan was well-read and thoughtful, his opinions formed by experience rather than simply accepting what others told him. "You are not what I expected," Eleanor admitted as they cleaned up after dinner. "In a good way or a bad way?" Nathan asked, drying the dishes she washed. "In a good way." "You are educated and considerate. You think about things deeply. I expected someone more rough, more coarse. The war taught me that civilization is a thin veneer easily stripped away by circumstances. I decided that if I survived, I would do my best to remain civilized no matter where I ended up or how hard life got." He set the dried plate on a shelf. "What about me is not what you expected?" Eleanor considered the question carefully. "Everything, honestly. I expected someone disappointed by my appearance, someone who would make the best of a bad bargain and treat me as a useful servant rather than a potential wife. I did not expect kindness or respect or genuine interest in me as a person." Nathan stopped what he was doing and turned to face her fully. "Miss Ramsey, Eleanor, if I may call you that, I need you to understand something. Whatever you have been told about your appearance, whatever unkindness you have endured, it was wrong. You are not ugly. You are not unfortunate. You are a woman who has lived and endured and persevered, and that shows in your face. When I look at you, I see strength and dignity and grace. I see someone worth knowing. I see beauty." Tears pricked at Eleanor's eyes, and she blinked them back furiously. "You do not know what you are saying." "I know exactly what I am saying." He took a step closer. "I am saying that I am glad you came. I am saying that I hope you will decide to stay. I am saying that if you give this a chance, give us a chance, I will spend every day trying to be worthy of your trust." Eleanor turned away, overwhelmed by the intensity of his words and the unfamiliar emotions swirling through her. "I do not know what to say." "You do not have to say anything tonight. Think about it. Sleep on it. Tomorrow you can give me your answer about whether you want to proceed with this arrangement." His hand touched her shoulder gently, a brief contact that somehow conveyed both comfort and respect. "For what it is worth, I truly hope you will stay." That night, alone in the small bedroom Nathan had prepared for her, Eleanor lay awake long into the night, listening to the unfamiliar sounds of the ranch. Cattle lowing in the distance, the wind whispering through the grass, the creak of the house settling. Her mind replayed every moment of the day, every word Nathan had spoken, every kindness he had shown. She had come west expecting, at best, a tolerable arrangement with a man who would value her work if not her person. Instead, she had found someone who looked at her with admiration, who spoke to her as an equal, who seemed to genuinely want her company. It was so far from anything she had imagined that she hardly knew how to process it. Was he sincere? Could he truly see her as beautiful, or was this some elaborate game that would reveal its cruelty in time? Eleanor had been deceived before by false kindness. She had learned to be suspicious of compliments and declarations of regard. But there had been nothing false in Nathan's eyes when he spoke to her. No hidden mockery, no underlying cruelty, just openness and honesty and something that looked remarkably like hope. Eleanor rose before dawn, a habit from years of working in other people's households. She dressed quickly and made her way to the main room, intending to start coffee and prepare breakfast. To her surprise, she found Nathan already up, feeding wood into the stove. "You are an early riser," he observed with a smile. "Years of practice." "I was always expected to have breakfast ready before the family woke." "Well, there are no such expectations here, but since we are both up, would you like some coffee? I make a decent pot, even if my cooking skills are limited." They worked together in the quiet morning, and Eleanor found herself enjoying the simple domesticity of the moment. Nathan moved around the kitchen with easy familiarity, and she began to get a sense of the rhythms of his daily life. Coffee first, strong and black. Breakfast next, usually something simple that could be prepared quickly. Then out to tend the animals and see to the endless tasks that came with running a ranch. "I have made my decision," Eleanor said as they sat down to eat. Nathan looked up, and she saw tension in the set of his shoulders. "And I would like to stay. I would like to proceed with the marriage arrangement if your offer still stands." The relief that washed over his face was so profound that Eleanor felt her last doubts crumble. No one could fake that level of genuine feeling. "My offer absolutely still stands," Nathan said. "We can ride into town today if you would like. Speak to Pastor Williams about performing the ceremony. It does not have to be anything elaborate unless that is what you want." "Simple suits me fine," Eleanor assured him. "I have never been one for elaborate celebrations." They rode into Tropic later that morning, Eleanor seated beside Nathan on the wagon bench, watching the landscape roll by. The town looked different in daylight, less intimidating than it had seemed when she first arrived. People were going about their business, friendly folks who waved as the wagon passed. Pastor Williams was a stout man in his 50s with a kind face and gentle manner. He listened to their request, asked a few questions to ensure they were both entering the marriage willingly, and agreed to perform the ceremony that very afternoon if they could find 2 witnesses. "Martha Pendleton would stand witness, I am sure," the pastor said. "And perhaps Samuel Morrison from the general store." Martha Pendleton turned out to be a pretty woman in her late 20s with intelligent eyes and a warm smile. She taught school in the small building at the edge of town and seemed genuinely pleased to meet Eleanor. "I am so glad Nathan found someone," Martha said as they waited for the pastor to prepare for the ceremony. "He has been alone for too long. Samuel's death hit him hard. You knew his brother?" Everyone knew Samuel. He was impossible not to like, always laughing and joking, full of energy. His death was a shock to the whole community. Martha lowered her voice. "Nathan withdrew after that, stopped coming to social gatherings, kept to himself. I worried about him. But when he told me last month that he had sent for a bride, I felt hopeful that he was ready to move forward with his life." The ceremony itself was brief and simple. Eleanor stood beside Nathan in the small church, Martha and Samuel Morrison serving as witnesses, and spoke vows that promised partnership and faithfulness. When Pastor Williams pronounced them husband and wife, Nathan kissed her cheek gently, a respectful gesture that honored the newness of their relationship. Afterward, Martha insisted on hosting a small celebration at the schoolhouse, and several townspeople dropped by to offer congratulations and bring small gifts. Eleanor was overwhelmed by the warmth of the welcome, having expected curiosity at best and judgment at worst. But the people of Tropic seemed genuinely kind, accepting her without question as Nathan's wife. "They are good folks," Nathan said later as they drove back to the ranch in the golden afternoon light. "Life is hard out here. People do not have time or energy to waste on pettiness. They clearly think highly of you. I try to be a good neighbor, help when I can, pull my weight in community efforts. That is all anyone asks." Back at the ranch, Eleanor found herself suddenly nervous. They were married now, legally bound, and while Nathan had promised her time and separate rooms, the reality of the situation was settling over her. She was Mrs. Irving now, wife to a man she had known less than 24 hours. As if sensing her apprehension, Nathan said, "Nothing has to change tonight, Eleanor. You take your room, I will take mine. We will continue as we have been, getting to know each other, settling into a routine. There is no rush for anything more." His consideration made her bold. "What if I wanted there to be more?" Nathan stopped in the process of unhitching the wagon horses and turned to look at her. "Are you saying you do?" Eleanor was not entirely sure what she was saying. She only knew that this man had been kinder to her in one day than most people had been in her entire life, that he looked at her with respect and genuine affection, that she felt safe with him in a way she had never felt safe before. "I am saying I do not want you to think I am rejecting you by sleeping in a separate room. I am saying that I am grateful for your patience, but I do not want to take it for granted." Nathan left the horses and came to stand in front of her. "Eleanor, I have patience enough for both of us. This marriage, if it is going to work, needs to be built on more than just legal obligation. I want us to be friends first. I want you to trust me, to feel comfortable with me. Everything else will follow in its own time if we are lucky. You are a remarkable man, Nathan Irving. I am just a man trying to do right by a woman I am coming to admire greatly." They settled into a routine over the following weeks, and Eleanor found herself falling into the rhythms of ranch life with surprising ease. She woke early and prepared breakfast while Nathan tended to the morning chores. After they ate together, she would clean the house, tend the small garden, and begin preparations for the midday and evening meals. Nathan worked with the cattle, repaired fences, maintained equipment, and handled the 100 other tasks that came with ranching. But it was the evenings that Eleanor came to treasure most. After dinner, they would sit together on the porch as the sun set behind the distant mountains, talking about everything and nothing. Nathan told her stories about his childhood in Ohio, about his parents who had died in a cholera outbreak when he was 16, about the war and his determination to survive it. Eleanor shared her own history more slowly, revealing bits and pieces about her difficult relationship with her mother, her years working for families who barely acknowledged her existence, her fear that she would end up old and alone with nothing to show for her life. "You will never be alone now," Nathan said one evening about 3 weeks after their marriage. "You have me, and I am not going anywhere." You say that now, but what if you change your mind? What if you wake up one day and realize you made a terrible mistake? Nathan reached over and took her hand, his thumb tracing gentle circles on her palm. "Eleanor, I am going to tell you something, and I need you to believe me. I do not make important decisions lightly. I thought long and hard before sending that advertisement back east. I knew what I was looking for, and I knew I would recognize it when I found it. When you stepped off that stage, I saw exactly what I had hoped to find. Nothing about you is a mistake, but you barely know me. I know enough. I know you are kind because I see how gentle you are with the animals. I know you are hardworking because this house has never been cleaner, and the meals have never been better. I know you are brave because you took a chance on a completely unknown future rather than accept a life of drudgery back east. I know you are loyal because you speak of the families you worked for without bitterness, even though they clearly did not treat you well. What else do I need to know?" Eleanor felt tears slip down her cheeks. "I am not used to being spoken to like this. I do not know how to accept it." "Then let me help you learn." Nathan lifted her hand and pressed a kiss to her knuckles. "Every day, I am going to remind you of your worth until you start to believe it yourself." True to his word, Nathan began a campaign of gentle affection and steady affirmation. He complimented her cooking, thanked her for her care of the house, praised her way with the horses. But more than that, he sought out her opinions on ranch decisions, asked her advice on problems that arose, treated her as a true partner in their life together. Eleanor found herself blooming under this steady attention. She grew more confident in her role as Nathan's wife, more willing to speak her mind, more open with her thoughts and feelings. The tightness she had always carried in her chest, the constant anxiety that she was not good enough, began to ease. One evening in October, as they sat by the fire after dinner, Nathan reading a book while Eleanor mended one of his shirts, she found herself studying his profile in the firelight. The strong line of his jaw, the way his dark hair curled slightly at the nape of his neck, the focused expression on his face as he read. Something warm unfurled in her chest, a feeling she had never experienced before but recognized instinctively. She was falling in love with her husband. The realization was both thrilling and terrifying. Eleanor had never been in love before, had never even been close. She had long ago accepted that romantic love was not something meant for women who looked like her. And yet here she was, married to a man who treated her with respect and kindness, feeling her heart open in ways she had thought impossible. "Nathan," she said softly. He looked up from his book. "Yes, I want to thank you. For what? For seeing me. For treating me like I matter. For being patient with me while I learned to trust this." She gestured between them. "I have never had this before, someone who genuinely cares about me. It means more than I can express." Nathan set his book aside and leaned forward. "Eleanor, I care about you very much. More than I expected to when I sent for a bride. You have become the best part of my days. You have become the best part of mine as well." They sat looking at each other across the firelit room, and Eleanor saw her own feelings reflected in Nathan's eyes. He rose and crossed to her chair, kneeling beside it so they were at eye level. "Eleanor, I know we started this marriage as an arrangement, a practical solution to loneliness and need. But somewhere along the way, it has become something more for me. You have become something more." He took her hand. "I am falling in love with you." The words hung in the air between them, precious and fragile. Eleanor felt her heart hammering in her chest. "I am falling in love with you too," she whispered. Nathan's smile was brilliant, transforming his entire face. "May I kiss you?" Properly this time, not just a peck on the cheek. In answer, Eleanor leaned forward, closing the distance between them. Their lips met softly at first, a gentle exploration, and then with growing confidence as they learned the taste and feel of each other. Nathan's hand came up to cup her face, his touch reverent, and Eleanor felt something inside her settle and click into place, like a key turning in a lock she had not known existed. When they finally pulled apart, both breathless, Nathan rested his forehead against hers. "I have wanted to do that for weeks. Why did you wait so long?" "Because I wanted you to be ready. I wanted you to want it too." He pulled back to look at her. "Do you want more? Because if you do, I would very much like to carry you to our bedroom. Not your room or my room, but our room, where you belong." Eleanor's answer was to stand and take his hand, letting him lead her to his larger bedroom. They came together with tenderness and growing passion, and Eleanor discovered that physical love, when shared with someone who truly cared for you, was nothing like the cold duty she had been led to expect. Nathan was patient and attentive, ensuring her comfort and pleasure, and when they finally lay tangled together in the aftermath, Eleanor felt transformed. "I never knew it could be like that," she murmured against his chest. "Neither did I," Nathan admitted. "I have had some experience, but nothing that felt like this. This was different. This mattered." From that night forward, they shared the larger bedroom, and Eleanor moved her few possessions from the small room that had been hers. The physical intimacy deepened their emotional connection, and Eleanor found herself happier than she had ever imagined possible. She woke each morning beside a man who loved her, who found her beautiful, who valued her thoughts and feelings. It was a kind of miracle. As autumn deepened and winter approached, they worked together to prepare the ranch for the harsh season ahead. They spent long days laying in supplies, repairing any weak spots in the barn and house, ensuring the cattle had adequate shelter. Nathan taught Eleanor to shoot, insisting she needed to be able to protect herself if trouble arose while he was out with the herd. "I do not like the idea of you being here alone without a way to defend yourself," he explained as he showed her how to load and aim the rifle. "There are predators, both animal and human, and you need to be able to keep yourself safe." Eleanor proved to be a decent shot, and the knowledge that she could defend their home if necessary gave her confidence. She also became more skilled at riding, taking Daisy out to explore the surrounding area or to ride with Nathan when he needed to check on the cattle. In November, a heavy snowstorm blew through, leaving them snowed in for 3 days. Rather than feeling trapped, Eleanor found the forced isolation cozy and intimate. They stayed warm by the fire, talked for hours, made love, and simply enjoyed being together without the distraction of work demanding their attention. "I could stay like this forever," Nathan said one afternoon. Eleanor curled against his side on the rug before the fireplace. "Me too. Though I suppose we would starve eventually once our supplies ran out." "Practical as always," Nathan said with a laugh, pressing a kiss to the top of her head. When the storm finally broke and Nathan could get out to check on the cattle, he returned with good news. They had all weathered the storm well, huddled together in the sheltered areas he had prepared. Only one had sustained an injury, a minor cut that Nathan treated with practiced ease. Christmas approached, and Eleanor found herself excited about the holiday for the first time in years. In her previous positions, Christmas had always meant extra work, preparing elaborate meals and decorations for families who barely acknowledged her presence. But this year, she was celebrating in her own home with a man she loved. She made curtains from fabric they had purchased in town, sewed Nathan a new shirt as a gift, and prepared special foods for the holiday. Nathan surprised her by presenting her with a beautiful wooden box he had carved during the long winter evenings when she thought he was just whittling to pass the time. "Open it," he urged on Christmas morning. Inside the box, nestled in soft fabric, was a silver locket on a delicate chain. Eleanor gasped, lifting it carefully from the box. "It was my grandmother's," Nathan explained. "She left it to me with instructions to give it to my wife when I married. I want you to have it." Eleanor opened the locket and found a small photograph inside, a serious-looking woman with Nathan's eyes. "Your grandmother? Yes, I think she would have liked you very much." Eleanor threw her arms around him, overcome with emotion. "I have never owned anything so precious. Thank you." "You are precious, Eleanor. You deserve beautiful things." They spent a quiet, perfect Christmas together, and when they made love that night, Eleanor felt their connection deepen even further. She was wholly and completely his, and he was hers, bound together by love and choice and the life they were building. The new year of 1874 arrived with clear, cold weather. Nathan and Eleanor fell into a comfortable rhythm, their partnership growing stronger with each passing week. Eleanor had never imagined marriage could be like this, a daily source of joy and comfort rather than duty and obligation. In February, Eleanor realized she had missed her monthly courses. At first, she dismissed it as a fluke, but when March came and went with no sign of bleeding, she had to acknowledge the truth. She was pregnant. The knowledge filled her with a mixture of joy and terror. She wanted a child with Nathan, wanted to raise a family with him in this home they had built together. But she also remembered her mother's frequent comments about how unfortunate it was that Eleanor had inherited her looks, how any children she might have would likely be similarly cursed. What if Nathan was disappointed? What if their child took after her, and he finally realized what a mistake he had made? Nathan noticed her distraction immediately. "What is wrong, love? You have been quiet for days now." Eleanor took a deep breath and decided honesty was better than fearful silence. "I am with child." Nathan's face went blank for a moment, processing the information, and Eleanor braced herself for disappointment. Instead, he let out a whoop of joy and lifted her off her feet, spinning her around. "We are going to have a baby. Eleanor, that is wonderful news. When? Are you feeling well? Do you need to see a doctor?" His obvious delight melted away her fears. "I think the baby will come in early autumn, September perhaps. I am feeling well, just a bit tired in the mornings. And yes, we should probably go to town and speak to Dr. Harrison to make sure everything is as it should be." Nathan set her down carefully, as though she might break. "We are going to be parents. I can hardly believe it. You are truly happy about this." "Happy, Eleanor, I am overjoyed." "A child, our child, a piece of both of us. How could I be anything but happy? I worry," Eleanor admitted. "I worry the baby will take after me in looks and you will be disappointed." Nathan cupped her face in his hands. "Listen to me. Any child of yours will be beautiful because they come from you. And even if they do look like you, that means they will have your kind eyes and your determined chin and your lovely smile. Our child will be perfect, no matter what, because they will be ours." Eleanor burst into tears, hormones and relief combining into an overwhelming tide of emotion. Nathan held her close, murmuring reassurances until she calmed. The pregnancy progressed smoothly, though Eleanor experienced frequent tiredness and occasional sickness in the early months. Nathan was unfailingly attentive, taking over more of the heavy chores and insisting she rest whenever she seemed worn out. He spoke to the baby often, his hand on Eleanor's growing belly, telling their unborn child stories about the ranch and the animals and all the things they would do together. In June, they felt the baby move for the first time. Eleanor had been sitting on the porch shelling peas when she felt a flutter, like butterfly wings inside her. She called for Nathan, and he came running from the barn, thinking something was wrong. "No, everything is right," she said, taking his hand and placing it on her belly. "Wait, just wait a moment." They sat frozen, barely breathing until the flutter came again, stronger this time. Nathan's face lit up with wonder. "I felt it. I felt our baby move." From that moment on, Nathan was even more protective and devoted. He sang to Eleanor's belly, read aloud from books, talked about his hopes and dreams for their child. Eleanor found herself falling even more deeply in love with him, watching him transform into a father before the baby had even arrived. Summer brought its own challenges. The heat was oppressive, made worse by Eleanor's growing bulk. But Nathan kept her as comfortable as possible, fashioning a fan to create a breeze, bringing her cool water from the creek, sitting with her in the shade during the worst of the afternoon heat. In early September, as Eleanor's time drew near, Martha Pendleton came to stay at the ranch, ready to assist with the birth. Dr. Harrison had also been alerted and promised to come as soon as labor began. "I am frightened," Eleanor admitted to Martha one evening while Nathan was out checking the cattle. "That is natural," Martha said, "but you are strong and Dr. Harrison is skilled. You will come through this fine. What if something goes wrong? What if I die and leave Nathan alone again?" Do not borrow trouble. Think positive thoughts. Imagine holding your baby for the first time. Labor began on a cool morning in mid-September. Eleanor woke to cramping pains and knew immediately what was happening. Nathan sent for Dr. Harrison and stayed by her side, holding her hand, wiping her brow, murmuring encouragement as the contractions grew stronger and closer together. The labor was long and difficult, lasting through the day and into the night. There were moments when Eleanor thought she could not endure another pain, when she was sure she would not survive this. But Nathan never left her side, his presence a constant anchor in the storm of pain and fear. Finally, as dawn broke on September 15th, Eleanor felt an overwhelming urge to push. Dr. Harrison guided her through it, and after several intense moments, a baby's cry filled the room. "A boy," Dr. Harrison announced, holding up the squalling infant. "You have a son." Nathan was crying openly as the doctor cleaned the baby and wrapped him in a soft blanket. "A son. We have a son, Eleanor." The baby was placed in Eleanor's arms, and she looked down at the red, wrinkled face with absolute love. He had dark hair like Nathan and Eleanor's small eyes and something of both of them in the shape of his face. "He is perfect," Nathan breathed, touching the baby's tiny fist with one finger. The baby immediately grasped it, holding on tight, and Nathan laughed through his tears. "He is already strong. What should we name him?" Eleanor asked, exhausted but elated. "What about Nathaniel?" Nathan suggested. "After my father, but different from my own name." "Nathaniel Irving," Eleanor said, trying it out. "Yes, that is perfect." They spent the first weeks of parenthood in a haze of sleeplessness and joy. Baby Nathaniel was healthy and hungry, demanding feedings every few hours and crying lustily when his needs were not immediately met. But Nathan and Eleanor approached parenthood as they had approached marriage, as a partnership where both contributed and both shared the burdens and delights. Nathan proved to be a devoted father, walking the floor with Nathaniel when he was fussy, changing soiled cloths without complaint, marveling over every tiny change in their son's appearance and behavior. Eleanor had never seen him happier. As Nathaniel grew, his features began to settle into their permanent shape. He had Nathan's green eyes but Eleanor's chin and nose. He was not a conventionally beautiful baby, but he was alert and bright and smiled easily, and both his parents thought him absolutely perfect. "He has your smile," Nathan said one afternoon, watching Eleanor feed their son. "That same warm, genuine expression that lights up your whole face. You are biased. Perhaps, but I am also right." Nathan leaned over and kissed first Eleanor, then Nathaniel's downy head. "I am the luckiest man alive." The seasons turned, and the ranch prospered. Nathan's herd grew, allowing him to hire a young man named Thomas Miller to help with the heavier work. This freed up Nathan's time to spend more with his family, and Eleanor treasured the evenings when the three of them sat together, Nathaniel playing on a blanket while his parents talked and planned for the future. When Nathaniel was 18 months old, Eleanor discovered she was pregnant again. This pregnancy was easier than the first, perhaps because she knew what to expect. A daughter, Sarah, was born in the spring of 1876, with Eleanor's dark hair and Nathan's features. 2 children, Nathan marveled, holding newborn Sarah while Nathaniel toddled around the room. "Our family is growing." Life settled into a beautiful rhythm. The children grew healthy and happy, surrounded by love and the vast beauty of Utah territory. Nathan expanded the house as he had always planned, adding 2 bedrooms and a larger kitchen. Eleanor planted an extensive garden, growing much of their food and earning extra money by selling preserves and vegetables in town. The ranch became known throughout the area for the quality of Nathan's cattle and the warmth of the Irving family's hospitality. Neighbors knew they could always count on Nathan for help when needed, and Eleanor became known for her kindness and skill as a healer, having learned much from Dr. Harrison during her pregnancies. Nathaniel grew into a thoughtful, gentle boy who loved the animals and had his father's way with them. Sarah was spirited and curious, fearless in exploring the world around her. Both children were told from their earliest days that they were loved and valued and capable of anything they set their minds to. One evening, when Nathaniel was 5 and Sarah 3, Eleanor sat on the porch with Nathan, watching their children play in the yard as the sun set. "Do you ever regret it?" she asked. "Sending for a mail-order bride, taking a chance on someone you had never met?" Nathan took her hand, his touch as warm and reassuring as it had been on that first day. "Not for a single moment. You are the best decision I ever made. You and our children are everything I could have hoped for and more than I ever dreamed possible." "I love you," Eleanor said, the words coming easily now after years of practice. "I love you too. You are beautiful, Eleanor Irving, inside and out. You always have been, even before you could see it yourself." Eleanor smiled, watching her children laugh and play, feeling the solid warmth of her husband beside her. She thought back to that terrified woman who had stepped off the stage in Tropic, convinced she was a disappointment before she even began. That woman had been transformed by love and acceptance, had learned to see herself through Nathan's eyes, had discovered she was worthy of happiness after all. The years continued to pass in a blur of joy and hard work. A third child, a son named Samuel after Nathan's beloved brother, was born when Nathaniel was 7. The house rang with laughter and the chaos of children, and Eleanor found herself busier and more fulfilled than she had ever imagined possible. She and Nathan grew deeper in love with each passing year, their bond strengthened by shared joys and weathered sorrows. They supported each other through difficult times when cattle were lost to harsh winters or drought, celebrated together when good years brought prosperity, and faced the challenges of parenthood as a united team. The children thrived, growing tall and strong in the clear mountain air. Nathaniel proved to have a gift for working with horses, gentling even the most skittish animals with patience and kindness learned from his father. Sarah inherited her mother's skill with growing things, coaxing vegetables and flowers from the rocky soil with determination and care. Young Samuel was too small yet to show his particular talents, but he was bright and cheerful, bringing joy to everyone around him. As the children grew old enough to be curious about their parents' story, Nathan and Eleanor told them about the mail-order bride arrangement, about Eleanor's journey west, about their first meeting in Tropic. "Mama thought she was ugly," Nathan told them one evening, Nathaniel and Sarah listening with rapt attention while Samuel dozed in Eleanor's lap. "But I knew the moment I saw her that she was the most beautiful thing I had ever laid eyes on." "Why did Mama think she was ugly?" Nathaniel asked, confused. "Mama is pretty." "Sometimes people say unkind things that make us believe lies about ourselves," Eleanor explained. "I had been told all my life that I was not pretty and I believed it, but your father helped me see the truth." "The truth is that real beauty comes from kindness and courage and love," Nathan said, pulling Eleanor close. "Your mother has all of those in abundance, which makes her truly beautiful." "When I grow up, I want to find someone like Mama," Nathaniel announced solemnly. "When I grow up, I want to be like Mama," Sarah added. Nathan and Eleanor exchanged a smile over their children's heads. They had succeeded in building something lasting and good. A family founded on love and respect. Children who would grow up knowing their worth and valuing others for their character rather than their appearance. On their 10th wedding anniversary, Nathan took Eleanor back to Tropic for a special dinner at the new restaurant that had opened the previous year. Martha Pendleton, who had married the shopkeeper Samuel Morrison 2 years earlier, watched the children for the evening. 10 years, Nathan said, raising his glass in a toast. "The best 10 years of my life." "Mine too," Eleanor agreed, clinking her glass against his. "I never imagined I could be this happy. You remember how frightened you were that first day? How you tried to convince me I should let you leave? I was so sure you were mocking me when you said I was beautiful. I had never heard those words before, not sincerely. I meant them then, and I mean them now." Nathan reached across the table and took her hand. "You are the most beautiful thing I have ever seen, Eleanor Irving. You were then, and you are now, and you will be when we are both old and gray." Eleanor felt tears prick her eyes. Even after 10 years, Nathan's words still had the power to move her. "I am so grateful I took that chance. I am so grateful you saw something in me worth loving. It was not hard to see. It was right there on the surface for anyone who cared to look." Nathan squeezed her hand. "I am the grateful one. You gave me a family, a home filled with love, a reason to wake up smiling every day. You gave me everything." They finished their meal and walked hand in hand through the town, which had grown considerably since Eleanor first arrived. More buildings lined the main street now. More families had settled in the area. The railroad had come through 3 years earlier, connecting Tropic to the wider world and bringing opportunities for growth and prosperity. But for all the changes around them, the most important things remained constant. Nathan's love, Eleanor's contentment, the family they had built together. These were the bedrock on which their life rested, unchanging and solid. The years continued their steady march. Nathaniel grew into a capable young man, as skilled with horses as his father had predicted. At 18, he began courting a sweet girl from a neighboring ranch, and Eleanor saw in their tentative courtship echoes of her own love story. Sarah, at 16, was being courted by multiple young men, but she declared she was in no hurry to marry, wanting first to see more of the world beyond Tropic. Samuel, 13 now and shooting up in height, was still too young for such concerns but showed signs of inheriting his father's business acumen. Nathan and Eleanor, in their 40s now, settled into middle age with contentment. Nathan's hair was streaked with gray, and lines creased his face from years of squinting into the sun. Eleanor had put on weight with her pregnancies and never lost it, her figure soft and matronly. But when Nathan looked at her, she still saw the same admiration and love that had been there on that first day 20 years ago. "You are even more beautiful now than you were then," he told her on their 20th anniversary. "Age has only enhanced what was always there." They were sitting on the porch, watching the sunset paint the sky in brilliant shades of orange and pink. The sounds of their children came from inside the house, Sarah helping Samuel with his schoolwork while Nathaniel cleaned up after dinner. "We have done well," Eleanor said softly. "Better than I ever dreamed possible." "We have done magnificently," Nathan corrected. "Look at our children, Eleanor. Look at the life we have built. We should be proud." "I am proud. Mostly, I am grateful. Grateful that you saw past the surface to the person beneath. Grateful that you took a chance on me." Nathan pulled her close, pressing a kiss to her temple. "Best decision I ever made was sending for a bride. Even better decision was recognizing a treasure when she stepped off that stage." As darkness fell, and the first stars appeared in the vast western sky, Eleanor reflected on the improbable journey that had brought her to this moment. That terrified young woman boarding a stage in Philadelphia could never have imagined this future, this wealth of love and family and belonging. But every hard step of that journey had been worth it to arrive here, in Nathan's arms, surrounded by the life they had created together. The children grew and eventually married and moved into homes of their own, though none moved far from the ranch where they had been raised. Nathaniel and his wife built a small house on the northern section of the Irving property and started their own herd. Sarah married a teacher and settled in town, where she opened a shop selling the beautiful quilts and preserves she made. Samuel took over more and more of the ranch operations as Nathan grew older, showing a talent for both the work and the business side of ranching. Nathan and Eleanor found themselves alone in the house again, just as they had been in the early days of their marriage. But this time, their solitude was comfortable and companionable. Two people who knew each other so well that words were often unnecessary. They spent their days working together on the ranch, though at a slower pace than in their youth. They spent their evenings reading by the fire, talking, reminiscing about years past and making plans for years to come. And they spent their nights wrapped in each other's arms, their physical passion mellowed by age but their emotional connection stronger than ever. Grandchildren arrived, first from Nathaniel, then from Sarah, then from Samuel. Nathan and Eleanor delighted in these small visitors, spoiling them shamelessly and sending them home tired and happy. Eleanor taught her granddaughters to cook and garden, while Nathan taught his grandsons to ride and rope. But both grandparents made sure to teach all the children, regardless of gender, that their worth lay in their character and kindness, not in their appearance or adherence to others' expectations. "You are passing on your greatest lesson," Nathan told Eleanor one afternoon, watching her with a group of grandchildren in the garden, "teaching them to see beyond the surface." "It is the lesson you taught me," Eleanor replied. "I am just paying it forward." When Nathan turned 70, the entire family gathered at the ranch for a celebration. Children and grandchildren filled the house and yard, 3 generations of Irvings laughing and talking and enjoying each other's company. Looking around at the crowd, Eleanor was overwhelmed by the legacy they had created. "All of this," she said to Nathan, gesturing at the gathered family, "all of these people exist because you saw beauty where others saw none, because you gave me a chance. All of this exists because you were brave enough to take that chance," Nathan corrected. "Because you did not let other people's judgments define you, because you opened your heart to love even when you were afraid." They stood together on the porch, watching their family, and Eleanor felt a profound sense of peace. Her life had not turned out at all the way she had expected when she was young. It had turned out infinitely better. The years continued to pass, and eventually, age began to take its inevitable toll. Nathan's joints ached in cold weather, and he moved more slowly than he once had. Eleanor's eyesight dimmed, making close work difficult. But they faced these challenges as they had faced everything else, together and with good humor. They still took their evening walks when weather permitted, moving slowly across land they had worked for decades. They still sat on the porch watching sunsets, Nathan's hand always finding Eleanor's. They still slept tangled together, finding comfort in each other's presence. On a crisp autumn evening, more than 50 years after Eleanor first arrived in Tropic, they sat in their accustomed places on the porch. The ranch sprawled out before them, well maintained by Samuel and his sons. In the distance, they could see lights from Nathaniel's house and hear the faint sound of children laughing. "I have been thinking," Nathan said, his voice rougher with age but still warm, "about that first day when you stepped off the stage. What about it?" "I knew, right then in that moment, that my life was about to change. I did not know how exactly, but I knew you were important. I knew you mattered." Eleanor squeezed his hand. "I thought you were touched by Son's sickness, telling me I was beautiful. I was telling you the truth. The same truth I have been telling you for 50 years. He turned to look at her, his green eyes still bright despite his age. "You are the most beautiful thing I have ever seen, Eleanor Irving, today, tomorrow, and every day for the rest of our lives." Tears streamed down Eleanor's weathered face. "And you are the best thing that ever happened to me. The best decision I ever made was stepping off that stage. The best choice I ever made was staying." They sat in comfortable silence as darkness fell, two people who had built a life of love and meaning against all odds. Eleanor thought about the scared young woman she had been, convinced of her own unworthiness, certain that happiness was something meant for other people. That woman had been transformed by love, not changed into someone different but allowed to become fully herself without fear or shame. Nathan had given her that gift, the freedom to be wholly and completely herself, to recognize her own worth, to understand that beauty was not about the configuration of features, but about the content of character. And in return, she had given him a life full of love and laughter, a family to treasure, a partner who stood by him through every triumph and trial. As stars appeared in the vast western sky, Eleanor reflected that her life had been a good one, full of meaning and joy. She had loved and been loved, had raised children who went on to love and be loved in turn, had built something lasting and beautiful. What more could anyone ask for? The Irving family continued to thrive in the years that followed, generation after generation carrying forward the lessons of love and acceptance that Nathan and Eleanor had embodied. The ranch remained in the family, passing from Samuel to his children and then to their children, each generation adding their own improvements while honoring the foundation their ancestors had built. And in town, whenever young people asked how to find lasting love, the old-timers would tell the story of Nathan and Eleanor Irving. They would tell of a man who saw beauty where others saw none, and a woman brave enough to believe him. They would tell of a love built on respect and partnership, of a family founded on acceptance and kindness. It became a legend of sorts in Tropic. The story of the mail-order bride who thought she was ugly and the cowboy who knew better. A reminder that real love sees past surfaces to the person beneath, that true beauty radiates from within, and that the most profound transformations happen when someone looks at us and truly sees who we are. Nathan and Eleanor Irving lived long, full lives, eventually passing within months of each other in their late 70s, having built a legacy that would endure long after they were gone. They were laid to rest side by side in the Tropic cemetery, under headstones that bore simple inscriptions. Nathan's read, loving husband, father, and friend. Eleanor's read, beloved wife, mother, and grandmother. But those who knew their story understood that the simple words carved in stone could never capture the depth of what they had shared, the beauty of what they had built together, or the power of a love that saw past appearances to the truth beneath. Their story lived on in the hearts and minds of their descendants, a testament to the transformative power of genuine love and acceptance, a reminder that beauty truly is in the eye of the beholder, and that sometimes the most beautiful thing is simply being seen, truly seen, for who you really are.